20% of the world's crude oil moves through one choke point, and Iran has sealed it shut with drone swarms, sea mines, fast attack craft, and underwater unmanned vehicles. The USS Abraham Lincoln's answer is a campaign of relentless fighter waves, launching around the clock, targeting Iran's layered coastal defenses in what is becoming the most intensive carrier air operation in a generation. CENTCOM footage, time-stamped and verified, tells a very different story, and one that begins on the flight deck. CENTCOM's own footage, video ID 998154, captures the tempo and precision of the USS Abraham Lincoln's flight deck on March 2nd, 2026. Time-stamped overlays and embedded metadata leave no room for doubt. Super Hornets line up under the night deck's glare, wings loaded, engines cycling in sequence. 12 strike fighters launch in under 5 minutes, each catapult shot marked by UTC time codes matching the official deck log. The median sortie rate, 1.8 launches per hour over an 8-hour window, reflects a sustained operational rhythm rarely seen since the height of Gulf operations in the early 2000s. Flight deck crews work in orchestrated teams, cycling aircraft from rearm to launch with practiced urgency. The CAG's voice, clipped and direct over the flight deck comms, coordinates the next strike wave as the previous package clears the bow. CENTCOM's video metadata, verified and cross-referenced with open-source satellite tracking, fixes the carrier's position at 24.5 north, 56.0 east, 150 nautical miles east of the Strait of Hormuz, squarely in the Arabian Sea. This is not simulated, not repurposed training footage, but real-time evidence of ongoing operations. The deck is crowded with FA-18EF Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers, and E-2D Hawkeye, confirming the Lincoln's legacy air wing composition for 2026. There are no F-35Cs present in this sequence, matching the published order of battle for Carrier Air Wing 9. Iranian state media and social platforms have circulated claims of the Lincoln's destruction, often accompanied by AI-generated or misattributed video. CENTCOM's release directly refutes these narratives. Not only is the carrier fully operational, but the time-stamped footage proves continuous strike capability in the hours immediately following each alleged attack. The launch sequence is uninterrupted, the deck teams unflinching. In this environment, the credibility of operational reporting rests on hard data, video overlays, digital deck logs, and GPS coordinates, not on adversary propaganda or speculative commentary. Each launch cycle is more than a display of technical prowess. It is the backbone of a campaign designed to degrade Iranian proxy assets along the coast. The rapid turnaround on deck, visible in the compressed intervals between launches, reflects a deliberate strategy. The strategy is to keep pressure on hostile launch sites, to disrupt drone and missile deployments, and to maintain air superiority over the contested littoral. The evidence is unambiguous: back-to-back launches, persistent air wing presence, and a carrier strike group that remains at the center of the operation, undiminished and fully engaged. The carrier strike group faces a defined mission: restore freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz and dismantle the denial web Iran has woven along its coast. The stakes are immediate. Nearly 20% of the world's crude oil, about 1 in every 5 barrels, moves through this narrow channel each day. Any interruption sends shockwaves through energy markets from Europe to Asia. The Abraham Lincoln operates under no illusions of symbolic presence. Its task is to keep this artery open, whatever the cost. Iran's approach is layered and adaptive, relying on a network of proxy threats to overwhelm defenses and keep commercial shipping at constant risk. Drone swarms launched from hidden bunkers or disguised civilian vessels fill the air with Shahed and Mahajer unmanned aerial vehicles. Below the surface, underwater unmanned vehicles, some armed with mines, others built for reconnaissance or direct attack, move unseen beneath shipping lanes. Static and drifting mines seated in key corridors threaten both military and civilian ships, demanding relentless clearance operations. Fast attack craft, often disguised as fishing boats or operating under false flags, dart in and out of coastal clutter, launching rockets or deploying more mines before vanishing. Along the shore, missile batteries and mobile launchers shift positions daily, using decoys and terrain to complicate targeting. This threat architecture is not hypothetical. CENTCOM operational reports and satellite tracking confirm repeated efforts to close the strait using every layer of this denial strategy. Each element is engineered to slow, disrupt, or deter carrier operations, and to raise the cost of intervention. The result is a battle space where no single platform or weapon can guarantee control. It requires continuous intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance cycles, rapid strike generation, and the ability to adapt to shifting threats in real time. Carrier-based AIR power forms the backbone of the response. The Lincoln's air wing, coordinated through secure networks and supported by persistent surveillance, launches relentless sorties against each node of the proxy network. Strike packages target launch sites, intercept drone swarms before they can mass, and hunt for underwater unmanned vehicle control centres hidden in coastal infrastructure. The tempo is dictated by the need to deny Iran the initiative, to prevent any window for new mines or drone attacks. Every hour without air superiority increases the risk to global energy flows and allied maritime security commitments. Relentless sorties are a necessity, not a doctrine. The mission is to create and sustain a corridor where commercial shipping moves without fear of interdiction or sabotage. Each strike wave is measured by the hours of safe passage secured for the world's energy supply. The carrier's operational tempo becomes both shield and sword, projecting power, denying sanctuary, and restoring the conditions for unimpeded maritime commerce. Carrier Air Wing 9 brings a layered arsenal to the fight, each platform and weapon mapped to a specific threat in the Iranian denial web. The FA-18 Super Hornet operates as the main strike and suppression element, launching with a mix of standoff and close attack munitions. Stormbreaker smart bombs, fielded for carrier use in early 2026, give the Super Hornet a 40-kilometer engagement envelope against moving coastal targets, bunkers, mobile missile launchers, and camouflage drone depots. This all-weather, multi-mode seeker allows strikes through cloud, haze, or dust, denying Iran the cover of bad weather or night. For drone swarms and small fast attack boats, the Super Hornet loads PKWS 2.75-inch laser-guided rockets. These rockets, guided by the aircraft's targeting pod and helmet-mounted cueing system, deliver precision kills on low-cost threats without wasting high-value missiles. When a Shahed or Mohajer drone appears on radar, the engagement cycle from track to impact can be compressed to under 30 seconds, essential for defending the carrier group from saturation attacks. The F-35C Lightning II, though not present in every sortie, acts as the networked sensor node. Its AN/APG-81 AESA radar and distributed aperture systems scan for low observable threats, unmanned underwater vehicles, radar quiet launchers, or disguised vessels. The F-35C fused sensor data is broadcast over Link 16, instantly updating Super Hornet cockpits and the carrier's Combat Information Center. This real-time data sharing enables an F-35C to detect a low-signature radar site and hand off a firing solution to a Super Hornet armed with ARGM-ER or Stormbreaker, compressing the kill chain to under 90 seconds from detection to strike. Each weapon is assigned by the Carrier Air Group Commander to match the evolving threat picture. Stormbreaker for mobile launchers, APKWS for drones, AARGM-ER for radar suppression, and LRASM or SLAM-ER for hardened coastal infrastructure. The result is a flexible intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance-driven strike package that adapts to Iranian tactics in real time, with Link 16 and advanced sensors binding the air wing into a single, coordinated offensive system. Nimitz-class carriers like the USS Abraham Lincoln are engineered for sustained, high-intensity operations far from home port. Measuring 1,092 feet from bow to stern and displacing over 104,000 tons at full load, the Lincoln's two A4W nuclear reactors deliver nearly unlimited propulsion and electrical power, eliminating the need for refueling during months-long deployments. The ship's flight deck spans 4.5 acres, supporting simultaneous launch and recovery cycles that drive the tempo of strike operations. Carrier endurance is not just a function of nuclear propulsion, but of how efficiently the Air Department can generate, arm, and launch sorties. With a typical embarked air wing of up to 90 aircraft and a crew of approximately 5,600, including nearly 2,500 dedicated to aviation, the Lincoln's deck teams operate in tightly coordinated shifts. During peak surge, the carrier can launch as many as 150 sorties in a 24-hour period, though sustained daily rates typically range from 30 to 80, depending on operational tempo and maintenance cycles. In the opening phase of Operation Epic Fury, CENTCOM data and deck logs confirm the Lincoln maintained a median of 1.8 launches per hour over extended windows, with deck crews cycling aircraft from rearm to launch in under 10 minutes. Sortie generation on this scale relies on a choreography of movement. Aircraft are towed, fueled, armed, and staged along the deck's 4 catapults, each capable of launching a 60,000-pound jet every 30 seconds. The nuclear plant's steam drives both catapults and arresting gear, ensuring that launch and recovery cycles can proceed without interruption. Below decks, ordnance crews assemble and load a mix of precision-guided munitions, adapting to real-time ISR feeds and shifting target priorities. The result is a continuous pressure campaign, with each wave of fighters airborne before the last has landed, denying Iran's proxy forces any pause to regroup or reposition. Carrier endurance and throughput translate directly into operational leverage, sustaining a tempo that outpaces adversary adaptation and keeps the maritime corridor open. Sensor fusion and rapid data link integration have compressed the carrier strike group's kill chain to a level unmatched in previous conflicts. During Operation Epic Fury, the detect-to-impact timeline for ISR-driven strikes consistently averaged 90 seconds, a tempo that redefines naval air power's ability to neutralize fleeting threats along the Iranian coast. High-altitude RQ-4 Global Hawk drones, orbiting above the Persian Gulf, scan hundreds of square kilometers at a time. Each new radar return or infrared signature is relayed through space-based relays and downlinked directly to the carrier's Joint Tactical Information Distribution System. From there, the F-35C sensor suite, combining distributed aperture, AESA radar, and EOIR feeds, merges these tracks into a single, actionable target picture, instantly broadcast across Link 16 and MADL networks. The speed of this process is quantifiable. Once a hostile radar or mobile launcher is detected, the decision to fire cycle rarely exceeds 30 seconds. The Air Wing's mission planners, leveraging real-time ISR, assign weapon loadouts in flight. A Super Hornet may receive a last-second Stormbreaker handoff from an F-35C or an APKWS rocket queue for drone suppression. From launch to impact, weapons reach targets within another 30 to 45 seconds, even against mobile or camouflaged assets maneuvering along the coast. This 90-second cycle stands in stark contrast to the multi-minute timelines of the early 2000s, when AWACS relays and manual target handoffs delayed strikes by 2 minutes or more. Today, the Lincoln's Air Wing executes detect-to-strike operations at a speed that outpaces adversary repositioning and reconstitution. The result is a persistent threat to Iranian proxy forces, no launch site, drone swarm, or fast attack craft remains viable for more than a minute and a half once identified. This technological leap, driven by sensor fusion and high bandwidth data links, is not theoretical. It is validated by CENTCOM's combat logs and after-action reports, which document compressed ISR latency and near instantaneous shooter tasking throughout the campaign. The operational impact is decisive. Carrier air power now delivers precision effects on a timeline that denies the enemy any window to adapt or escape. Countering Iran's layered threat environment demands a fusion of kinetic, electronic, and autonomous systems, each mapped to a specific vulnerability in the denial web. Carrier Air Wing 9's anti-drone coverage begins with a tightly controlled airspace envelope, enforced by FA-18EFs, equipped with APKWS 2.75-inch laser-guided rockets and AIM-9X sidewinders. These jets, working in tandem with EA-18G Growlers, intercept low-flying Shahed and Mohajer drones before they close within 5 nautical miles of the strike group. The Growlers jam command links and disrupt GPS signals, degrading both swarm coordination and precision navigation. For drone threats that evade the fighter screen, destroyers deploy 20mm Phalanx C-1WS and C-RAM launchers. But these close-in systems are limited by magazine depth and engagement cycle, effective against isolated targets, but susceptible to saturation. Directed energy weapons represent a partial solution. Arleigh Burke-class escorts, operating in the Lincoln's defensive ring, field prototype 150 kilowatt laser 20mm hybrids. These systems have demonstrated a high kill probability against small, unmanned aerial vehicles at ranges up to 2 kilometers. But their power output and cooling cycles cannot sustain continuous engagement against massed swarms. No such system is installed on the carrier itself. The Abraham Lincoln relies on traditional kinetic defenses and the rapid cycling of air wing sorties to thin out threats at range. Mine and underwater countermeasures are led by MH-60R and MH-60S. Seahawk crews deploying Remus 600 and Remus 1000 autonomous underwater vehicles. These autonomous underwater vehicles sweep designated corridors with side scan and synthetic aperture sonar, mapping and classifying mines with a 90% detection rate in shallow water. However, the detection of low-signature Iranian unmanned underwater vehicles remains unreliable beyond 1 kilometer. No dedicated weapon system against unmanned underwater vehicles is fielded. Surface ships rely on acoustic decoys and legacy torpedo loads, a stopgap that leaves a persistent undersea gap. The result is a battle space where air and surface threats can be suppressed with layered firepower, but the underwater domain remains the most exploitable seam in the carrier group's defense. Tactical adaptation is ongoing, but the absence of high-power lasers and effective anti-unmanned underwater vehicle systems keeps the threat calculus dynamic and unresolved. 3 U.S. carrier strike groups, Abraham Lincoln in the Northern Arabian Sea, Gerald R. Ford in the Red Sea, and George H.W. Bush transiting toward the theater, form a continuous operational triangle around Iran's maritime perimeter. This geometry is not symbolic. It is designed to generate overlapping strike cones that leave no window for Iranian coastal batteries, drone launch sites, or fast attack craft to regroup or reposition. With Lincoln sustaining up to 120 sorties per day in the opening phase, Ford's arrival in the Red Sea brought a surge capacity of 150 daily launches, using its electromagnetic aircraft launch system and expanded deck. Every deck cycle is mapped against adversary ISR patterns, ensuring that while one carrier rotates for rearming or maintenance, another surges forward with fresh air wing assets. The third, Bush, moves into position to relieve or reinforce, extending the pressure envelope and guaranteeing no operational dead time. This rotation logic is modeled on lessons from 2019 to 2021. Gulf harassment incidents, when Iranian fast attack boats and drone swarms exploited single carrier gaps to probe US defenses. Now, the leapfrog schedule keeps at least one carrier on station for immediate strike, one covering secondary approaches, and one in reserve or transit. The persistent presence of 3 carriers creates a layered redundancy. If one group is targeted or forced to maneuver, the others close the gap, maintaining uninterrupted air superiority and sea control. Commanders coordinate strike packages, and ISR sweeps across a 1,200 nautical mile arc, using Link 16 networks to synchronize F-35C sensor feeds and Super Hornet strike assignments in real time. This posture denies Iran the ability to mass or maneuver its proxy assets undetected. The 3-carrier strategy is not escalation for its own sake. It is deliberate overmatch, engineered to break the cycle of harassment and ensure that the Strait of Hormuz remains open to global shipping at every hour, regardless of Iranian attempts to create a window of vulnerability. Operational figures released by CENTCOM provide the only verifiable benchmark in a contested information environment. Official briefings reference approximately 5,000 Iranian targets engaged during the opening phase of Operation Epic Fury, but this number remains unconfirmed by primary after-action reports or deck logs. The widely circulated 5,000 target claim traces back to open-source aggregators and lacks independent verification. CENTCOM's own spokesperson, in a March 2026 release, confirmed 13 U.S. personnel killed in action and roughly 200 wounded over the first 18 days. Those figures have been corroborated by secondary defense reporting and satellite-derived battle damage assessments. Claims of the Iranian Navy's destruction or total loss of Karg Island facilities are not substantiated by official releases or intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance imagery. In this environment, casualty and target counts serve as both operational metrics and ammunition in the ongoing information war, with CENTCOM's data providing the only credible reference points amid a flood of exaggerated or fabricated claims. CENTCOM's official statements dismantle persistent rumors of the Lincoln's destruction. The so-called sinking, widely circulated on Iranian and Chinese channels, is refuted by time-stamped flight operations and deck logs showing uninterrupted strike cycles. Independent fact checks confirm that viral footage of a burning carrier is either AI-generated or misattributed from unrelated incidents. Administration officials, led by the Secretary of War, maintain a public stance of no ceasefire and no negotiation until Iranian coastal threats are neutralized. The Energy Secretary warns that global oil markets cannot absorb a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz, projecting that even a 2-week interruption would trigger cascading economic effects across Europe and Asia. Allied responses fracture along familiar lines. The United Kingdom commits a destroyer and air assets to the coalition, while France withholds naval deployment, citing strategic ambiguity. This information campaign is not a sideshow. It shapes the diplomatic space, hardens coalition resolve, and compresses the timeline for a negotiated endgame. Every verified sortie and debunked claim translates directly into leverage at the policy table. Carrier air power now sets the operational tempo in the Strait. Link 16 enabled F-35C aircraft and Super Hornets execute precision strikes driven by intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, degrading Iranian proxy capabilities in real time, despite Tehran's claims. Strategic dominance is measured sortie by sortie. As energy markets and global trade hinge on sea lanes, the cost of losing air-sea supremacy grows. In contested waters, freedom of navigation remains a test of resolve.